Good afternoon, man. This is Mr. Butler. It's the best day of my life. I'm in this bipolar weather in Atlanta. Just leaving the gym. I ran into one of my homeboys at the gym, and I'm not gonna say his name. We was locked up together. And during the conversation, man, what I realized is that a lot of people that I know, a lot of brothers that I know, I think they was forced into homosexuality. I say that because Alto State Prison was a place where it was like where they sent a lot of young guys that had a lot of time. Like you taking the people that was in the county and at other prisons causing ruckus, or that was just too young and you couldn't send them nowhere else. But you take maximum and closed security and us being so young and you put us all in the same place. It's just certain things, man, that was taking place. And when I say that, I think a lot of people was forced into homosexuality. Like it was almost like if you was down at Alto and I'm just telling you the mind state, and you're down there and you see somebody that is appeared or perceived to be weaker to one degree or another, there was a status that came along with dominating another individual. Like these dudes, me, myself included, not participating in the acts, because I never participated in am I allowed to say a homosexual act? I never participated. Not to say that it didn't cross my mind, because when you're down there for a decade, you have all kinds of stuff to cross your mind. And if you say it didn't, I mean, for you to think about something and to deny it in this thought process, it crossed your mind. Sidebar, like for me, when I thought about homosexuality, in my mind, I just like the smell of, and this is gonna sound real immature, but the smell of doo-doo would deter me. I would think that every homosexual act would carry along with it the essence of doo-doo. So that to the side. So, like, if you was at Alto and you was raping somebody, you was seen as somebody that was dominant when it came in that aspect of it. To some people, you were seen as you was just a gay dude or you was a homosexual. But I know dudes that although they was raping or they was interacting, they don't consider themselves to be homosexuals. And then you got some people that was down there that was getting taken advantage of. And I don't want to say the R word because I heard a bunch of other people who I respect online, they don't say the R word. I don't know why, but I'm not gonna say it neither. But it was a lot of R'ing going on, and the fact that you could convince yourself that R'ing another person would make you strong, would be more dominant. To me, the act of it just seems kind of weird, but I do understand it. I understand it because in all aspects of life, whether it be sports, whether it be finances, whether it be things that you can accumulate, like he who has the most, he who has, he who wins, he who is able to dunk the ball, he who is able to just like the society that we live in, man. We are in each other all the time. And that's a spontaneous thought that I just had. But if you was there and you was R-ing somebody, then it was like you were strong. You was the dominant one. And I'm not saying that people who didn't participate wasn't strong, not dominant, because you can beat a man to death and be dominant as well. And even within that, man, that's a weird psychological aspect of things too, because just because you beat somebody up, I guess the goal was to dominate. Back to the point, because I know I'm like all everywhere, and people say I'm like, sometimes I could be a good storyteller and sometimes I can be a hard. It's not really a story right here. This is just my experience as, to what I saw going on. And then the thing is, I saw people who who may have possibly been taken advantage of sexually, as opposed to waiting to be victimized, they would victimize. They would become the dominant individual in a specific situation. Or you would have a person who was, who could possibly have been taken advantage of years ago. And then when stuff started moving around, then and years go by and some people move away, then they become the dominant force. And they further inflict this trauma upon people that were just like them. And what I learned was that, what I'm learning is, like, when you come home, it's almost like a secret code of silence. Because nobody that I know that interacted in a homosexual act, we've never had a conversation about it. We never had like, hey man, I remember you was effing that boy, or you used to rape such, or like I never really had a conversation with nobody. It's almost like it's like a hidden thing, like nobody talk about it. I ain't never outed nobody. I did have a situation where somebody, old lady, had said something to me, and they were just like, man, you let me interact with this dude, such. And my whole thing was, man, that's your bid. I don't have nothing to do with that. I ain't have nothing to do with that. Should you out somebody? If we on the street, we did time together, and you used to interact with a man when we was in chain gang, and then I see you on the street, and I'm cool with you and your old lady, I can't out you because I knew you first. That ain't my bid. I'm just staying up out of it. But she did call me. She was just like, man, because I guess he was writing letters back and forth to I guess somebody that was still locked up. And she was just like, Butler, man, you let me interact with this FN? I was like, man, I don't know nothing about that. And truth of the matter, it wasn't none of my business. It wasn't none of my business. And is that outing? If I be like, oh, you're a homosexual, is that considered outing? Shouldn't you give a homosexual they rite of passage to come out of the closet when they want to? Maybe he didn't want to come out the closet. I figure whoever you love, however you love them, that's your business. But what I'm telling you is this, is that 85% of the people that I was locked up with were, in my personal opinion, forced into homosexuality. And that's not just from a peer pressure point of perspective. I think that at one point in time, you can get the sex magazines in prison. Like I forget the name of them, but it was a list of them. And we could take stamps and we could go buy them. Now they got cell phones, so that's a whole nother ballgame. But you could take the stamps and you can send them to the people who sell the magazines, and they'll send you a stack of magazines with naked people in them. And you can handle your business that way. And I think that once that became a non-issue, like they stopped that from taking place, in my mind, I want to say homosexuality increased. Because if you got magazines, to me, I think magazines would suffice. And it just came to a point where when they cut that off, magazines became a commodity, and a hot commodity. Then it was almost like an act of God. If a dude had a magazine, you would see it laminated with that clear tape, so that if somebody ejaculated on the page, it could just be wiped off. But when the police came through and they saw you with a sex magazine, they would take the magazines. I couldn't quite understand. It seems like if it's raping going on, if it's RN going on, and it's people stabbing people up, and these magazines gonna calm these people down and make them at least take a nap. And it seems like you ought to let the magazine stay there, and I also understand punishment. All right, this is Mr. Butler, man. I got to go.